Hello bonsai friends, happy Friday. It's the day after Christmas. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Today we're working on our Dawn Redwood. This is a tree we picked up about a month and a half ago at the club banquet dinner, holiday dinner. And we're going to put a little wire on it this afternoon. We'll be repotting it in a month or two when it gets closer to spring. But for right now, we're just going to maybe try and put a little wire on it and see if we can do something with it and clean it up a little bit. And I will take a moment and show you just how big the tree is as I very carefully move. It's actually hitting the ceiling all the way up. And we all joke about sticks and pots. Well, here it is. This is a stick in a pot, basically. And we're going to get started on it. And the way I got it like this, the gentleman I got it from had dug it out, and I guess it had grown out through the bottom, and so it has some escape roots to it. I need to carefully try and bend this down, and you can see there's a few there. I looked at it before, and I think there's some other bigger ones that come through that he had cut off. So he had done this to keep it protected for the winter. But for now, just like with any tree, we want to find our root base and get started there. I know you won't be able to see some of this. Okay, I've got a big root coming out down here, and that's good. That's what I was somewhat looking for, is a nice root right there. Something we can anchor our wire to as we get started. And we'll worry about the rest of that when we go to repot it here in a couple of months. Now, to clean it up a little bit, and I've had a few different ideas and a few different suggestions at the club meeting when I got the tree on what I could possibly do with it. Of course, you know, trunk chop it, this, that, and the other, air layer, what have you. And then I was watching a recent, I believe it was the Kokufu 10 show a few months ago. And I saw a tree there that gave me a little bit of inspiration. And so that's the tree I'm going to somewhat follow. And you'll see here shortly what our plan is as we get this cleaned up. Bunch of scraggly bark to it. You can see there's a few spots, well actually no you can't see. Adjusted the camera a little bit there. You can see there's a few spots here where we have multiple branches all coming from one area. So of course that causes an inverse taper or a big swelling, and we don't want that. So we're going to try and get rid of all of those. And like we jokingly say, I was saying a moment ago, I'm going to turn it into a stick in a pot before it becomes a bonsai. I know this stub up here is dead, so I'm not worried about taking that one off. It was going to come off no matter what. I'm going to go ahead and take off this piece way up at the top here, just to make it easy to deal with, and so it's not up against the roof. There's a spot there I might want to save, so that's why I'll give me just a... Uh-oh. I cut too deep. I cut it at too much of an angle there, but it should be okay. Stub in here we can take out. Of course, we'll take these two off. We'll leave this one for a moment. We'll leave those two up there. Now, one of the things with working with this tree and the bark coming off of it, I wanted to clean it up a little bit before I put my wire on, is using a brush to try to work and get all this off. I don't really have a large wire brush to use. I do have a few wire brushes, but they're rather small and it would take forever. And so when I was at the store the other day, I found basically a grill brush. And so let's see how this works for removing. Oh, it's working somewhat good. I know there are, you can probably see maybe there are a few buds in there that'll sprout this year, hopefully in the spring. Let's get some of this cleaned off here. And I did Google when I saw this. This is not powdery mold that you're seeing, that these Dawn Redwoods have a natural tendency to be kind of fuzzy underneath. That's why I'm not worried about doing this indoors. I probably could wear a little bit of a mask, but I didn't think about that until just now, or until I started on it. But you can see down here where it's a bit older that the bark isn't coming off like that. I think get that fuzzy part off and the new bark that comes out from underneath of it's going to be a lot nicer, look a lot more like this here, a lot more natural. We will give that just a little bit of a scrape. Okay. Move a little bit of this out of our way. All right, let me readjust this. Now I've brought you back down to the bottom here. We're going to get started. Now I don't know exactly, but I believe this is at least a 6mm aluminum wire. I don't really have any copper wire to speak of. What little bit of copper wire I do have is very small. Be used for wiring, a really thin branch like that, but would not work on anything like this. And so, like I say, you can see this is pretty thick. So I'm going to get started on this a moment here. I want to start by sticking up underneath that root and stick it in the ground a bit. There we go. Might not want to use the turntable for that. Okay. Try to keep our coils pretty even here. Oh, hold on. There we go. Get that a little tighter in there. I don't really want that coil. This coil's going to come up on the inside there, and I don't know that I really want that. Maybe if I can undo it a tiny bit, bring it down a little lower here, and now come around so that now this coil is going to come up over right there, and now we can bring the rest of it around. And see just how far up do I want to take this really large wire. At least up there a ways. Now I've had this tree in my little greenhouse, so it hasn't been sitting out getting too terribly cold. So hopefully when I go to bend it, it's not going to be too fragile. I did a few little small test bends on a few areas. Alright, I'm out of camera view now. And let me see how. I'll just take this up another wrap or two. I know you can't see me. And then we'll get it cut off. Okay. Now, there's a small bend. It starts to come towards me a tiny bit right here. So that's where my first bend wants to somewhat be, if it will. Of course, I do have a bigger bend coming back this way. But I don't know that this wire is going to be strong enough, or this trunk just might be too strong to bend. So let's start with, just in case, let's see if we put us a second wrap of wire, what will happen. So, I'm going to start underneath my first wrap. I was suspecting I might have to do this. Okay, yeah, up. Okay, come up, under. That's not. Yeah, that bends a little odd right there, that wrap. It's a little too close together, but we had to do it that way. So I don't want to cross over. I have to stay underneath this other wire. Since we have the other wire going all the way up, I'm going to take this one all the way up as well to match it. Okay, and now I can cut it off at the same spot. And let's see what happens when we put a little bend to it now. Looks like it's getting a little bend to it. This part might just be too thick for me to get a bend in it. I did get a little bit here, and then it looks to start to naturally want to come back up that way. I know that a Dawn Redwood normally isn't styled like a literati. In case you haven't guessed, that's what my intention was with this. But I sometimes do things a little bit different. I don't want to put a third wrap of wire on here, but I know I'm not going to get any bend. I might get a little more bend here. And here, like I say, I want to be very careful. We can put a little bend in there. And now, I can sort of move that going forward a little bit. Okay, let's okay. Again, after adjusting the camera a little bit, you can see what I'm starting to get here. Not sure how much you can see from that angle. It is somewhat coming towards you, if you're going to call that your front, which at the moment, that's what it's going to be. We're going to call that our front. So let's see if we can get a little bit more twist to it. I'm trying to figure out how to, I want that to go, yeah. Like I said, this part down here is just too big to try to get any bend in it. This part up here I can get some bend to. And you might think that that big aluminum wire is too much, but it really isn't. I'm not being able to bend this tree very easily. We'll put a little bit more hook to the top here. I am trying to get this part to come this way while that one's going up that way, so that it has different angles to it, not just one. Give a little bit of a turn. See what you think of it. And now I have to figure out what to do with the top. Let's see if we can maybe we'll just put a little more bend there. Put some more bend in all of this. And now I've got a few different trees that look like question marks. I'm really not trying to do that with this one, but I am trying to make a literati out of it. Alright, now what do we do with our top? I'm actually thinking if I go ahead and remove all of this upper portion and leave just that stub there, it'll make it a lot better taper, and the way that it comes down this way, as next spring as that starts to naturally want to grow up, that'll put some interesting bend to it. So I think that's going to be my next decision, is to go ahead and remove it from here and allow that to become my new top. There's a little piece, there's a little bud there that we don't want to spring up in the spring, or sprout out in the spring. There's a few new buds along here. Of course, we'll wait until spring to deal with that. But for right now, put a little movement in this, make a little literati out of a Dawn Redwood. And now we just wait until another month or two. We'll get us a pot and pot this up, or I think I've already got a pot for it, a training pot. And we'll do that in a couple months. Please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.